Would you consider it to be a corporation or a large company, or is it?
Where am I currently?
Yes. Yes.
We're about like 60 people. I don't know if you consider that large.
I would consider it large, but not corporate per se. The reason I'm asking is because like most of the research I've done, like really dedicated research, all was at large.
And you're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment. And, just a while ago, something happened in a design project that really made me unsure about everything I've learned so far. We were doing research, user research, just to validate and check with a prototype. And we were talking about screenshots. And at the end of the prototype, we asked the users or the participants to tell us how it went, all the standard questions. And then at some point we asked how useful or not useful were the screenshots for you? And almost all users told us, yeah, they were great, very useful. It really helped me achieve my goals, like all the very positive answers. But looking at the recordings, some of those people didn't even visit a page with screenshots on them. And others were just scrolling by so quickly that it's impossible for them to really look at the screenshots and the little arrows and annotations within the screenshots. So that makes me sound a bit like, Dr. Gregory House from the TV show. All people lie. And that makes me wonder, why are we doing research? Why are we asking these questions? If people are just making things up, if they just want to be friendly because they know they're part of a research program, and what's a better way? What do you think?
Yeah, I think picking the type of research for the type of thing you're testing is also key as well. So in your example, you mentioned a screenshot. Like, how do you asking them if the screenshot is helpful? I guess you're kind of benchmarking the usefulness of these screenshots as like facilitating the experience.
Yeah.
What might have been a better test might have been a usability test. So having them navigate through the experience and having the screenshot be the helper. So if you want to A/B test two different experiences, one without screenshot, one with, and seeing if they get to their goal quicker.
Yeah.
So I think it just goes back to I think all research is useful. It just depends on choosing the right form to get the right feedback that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true. Just for a little bit of context is that we were testing different variations of the screenshots. Because from our regular feedback collection practices, we already got comments where people were like, yeah, screenshots were really helpful. And then we were like, oh, interesting. Let's see if we can make them better, So we were A/B testing between screenshots. And then, the outcome was that it doesn't really matter. Like, they're all kind of useful. But the thing that was really annoying or freeing, perhaps for me, was that as a response to a question, some participants or users will just make things up, either to be friendly or because they feel like they're tested and they don't want to give a wrong answer, or because we are asking silly questions. That might also have been the case. But I really scratched my head like, maybe it's outdated. Maybe I fell for some educational thing that only works in theory. But I wasn't in the best mood after encountering this.
That's fair. Well, I think it's important to know that every test, whether it fails or not, there's always a learning opportunity. So in that case, maybe just another way to do it. But like the old saying, what users say they want something, but they actually watch them do it, they do another thing. What I think is, what I often do is try the triangulation approach, to use a fancy word, to do multiple types of research for the same study. So that could be a combination of things. One could be a survey, and that could be use it like your screener up front. Like, let's get some context on some high level questions first, and then you'll run the same study you did, and then you'll do something that's unmoderated. That way you're kind of covering your bases from all angles. Like, you're not using one data point, using 3 in this case, and you're able to kind of cover your bases. Like, here's what the survey said, here's what they actually did, and here's our in-person kind of conversation. Let's try to weed out or kind of narrow in on like the key insights there.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel like listening to you and all the conversations we're having is that you are way more research focused than I am, or perhaps more proficient in research.
Well, it just happens. Like I've been in the situations where you're frustrated, like, okay, you're not
Mhm.
you're not giving me what I need. But like, I think it's about being empathetic again. Like they're participating, and like you mentioned that before, which I think you should
Mhm.
kind of narrow in on. It's like they're oftentimes they're volunteering or you're paying them, so like they feel like they need to give you some value.
Yeah.
So it's like what the part of the process, or like at least part of my process, what I like to do is to make them at ease. Like I preface every call with, hey, we're doing this type of research study, that's why we reached out to you. i would
Mhm.
love to I would love for you to be as open as possible. We are looking for both negative and positive. So if this thing is shit, for example, please tell us. That's more important than compliments. And like I'm looking for honest feedback, and I would love for you to kind of give me
Mhm.
that kind of information. And then that
Yeah.
usually so it's a lot of like conversation, getting them at ease, and so they're in the right mindset to give you the information that they want. So that usually helps, because like you can tell that if they're uneasy, and also if there's kind of different types of people who join the sessions, and you've kind of probably seen this. There's the person who's giving one word answers and seems very stiff, or they just have that kind of like direct personality,
Mhm.
like getting into like telling jokes or just getting my knees just to break out of that tunnel vision they have, just to
Yeah.
get them in the right mind frame, will give you the information that you need.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Extra challenging bit of that situation I started this episode with was that we used a platform where we can ask questions, but we aren't live in the room with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's all pre-recorded, and they go through the prototype, and then we ask we show them questions, and we ask them to think out loud, and then we're recording still. So when they
Mm-hmm.
answer a question they see on screen, like I cannot ask a follow-up question. I also cannot really put them at ease except by adding some text at the start of the test. So point well taken. I fully agree. It didn't help in my situation in that particular moment. I think in that moment, and for the next version, we just decided to not ask any questions. We were going to go fully by, hey, think out loud while you're going through the prototype, and then just watching them do the
Mm-hmm.
thing. And just seeing if they can succeed, yes or no, and where they got stuck and that kind of thing.
Could be. But also, I would also think differently about like the moderated and unmoderated. The unmoderated one, usually it's a volume game, because there's instance, like in your example, someone's not actually looking at the mock-up or the actual image. If the volume of that study increases to compensate for like the unmoderated, you'd have to have a higher volume count of participants versus the moderated. You get more, you're there in the room, you get to kind of push back and ask questions.
Yeah, true. That's true. Also makes me think about like you're working somewhere. Would you consider it to be a corporation or a large company? Or is it?
Where am I currently?
Yes, yes.
We're about like 60 people. I don't know if you consider that large.
I would consider it large, but not corporate per se. Reason I'm asking is because like most of the research I've done, like really dedicated research, all was at large companies, and then in recent times I've been more focused on startups and founders and content creators. So research is far less common there. So maybe I've neglected my research muscle a little bit. I'm just thinking about how expertly you sound when you talk about research. So maybe that's one of your super skills.
Potentially.
Yeah, but well, yeah, I mean it's
But
super important still.
it really depends on like the situation. You can probably skip research if it's a thing that exists that we all use. Like like how many times can you redesign or uh, or usability test a checkout? Like if it's a pattern that exists that's repeatable, we know what the benchmarks are. It's easier. It really depends on the situation.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. Why reinvent the wheel? And also important is that people, they bring their experience with them to your platform. That's the only reason why the hamburger menu is still a thing, because Google is so large. They introduced it and made it common, and people just had to get used to it. So now you can be like, well, I want to design it differently because it's better. But yeah, could be, but then it's not. It's better, but people are not used to it, and then they get confused. Even though it's not sure why I'm saying that, but I just felt right in the moment.
I think we all love the burger menu.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Anyway, so I was really a bit sad when all of that happened, and then I tried to convince the person that was involved also in the research of something I did a while back, a SUS score. Does that ring a bell? SUS score?
Tell me. Interesting.
SUS score. I have to look at with the abbreviation, the System Usability Scale.
Okay. I was thinking something completely different.
Yes, it was SUS as in suspect.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you are a gamer. Anyway, so SUS score is you do a test and you ask 10 questions afterwards, the same questions all the time, and then there's a score, and there's a formula that you apply, and then based on the answers to those questions, you get a score. So it's really standardized. And then if you do that with, let's say, 10 people, you have an average. And then if you make a change to your platform and you do the test again, you get a new standardized score. And then that's an easy way to see if you have an improvement, yes or no, because the score will be higher. And the reason why it's useful is because you ask the same questions all the time, and you give it scores, and then it's really a numbers game. I thought it was quite useful. Then the person I was working with on that research, where about the screenshots, I told them also about SUS scoring. And they were like, yeah, well, that's just a spreadsheet you use to sell to your corporate manager. But still, people lie on it. So he was really convinced that these questions do not matter at all. I'm curious what you think there. Are questions useful, or scoring or testing and comparing it? Or is that really just, paper jungle in a large corporation and thus very useless?
I think so. I think it's very useful. Again, I'm a advocate for multiple data points. That SUS score seems very valuable. Asking questions and then seeing if the score changed. It's almost similar to an NPS score. It's a health check. It's a similar thing you send to users or to your client base. I want to see if we're doing better or worse. And because you have questions, you probably have more qualitative data as part of that. So you can actually dig through people's comments and answers and seeing what they're saying.
Yeah.
Which gives you more information than radar software 1 to 5.
Yeah.
But the added benefit, which I love, if you're really nerdy about it, is that you're able to, I imagine you have access to the individual user's answers.
Yeah.
So you can probably segment the data to go for if there is a SUS score 1 out of 10, or how do you grade?
How do you grade? 1 out of 10. Yeah, you get a grade basically.
What you can do is basically just segment anyone who gives you a failing score. So 6 and below or 5 and below. Watch over the year. If you're doing this quarterly or every other month, watch to see which users are going, or which segment is going up or trending up and which ones are going down. And that kind of gives you an inkling on if you're improving. And also you can isolate into the users who are not super jazzed about your software. And those are actually great users to interview. Yeah. I find the angriest users are the best users to interview because they're angry because they care.
Yeah. That's
the only reason that they're giving terrible score, because otherwise they just give you a 7, move on with their day. But your software has enough impact on their life that they have a negative experience because they're trying to rely on it for whatever task they're trying to complete.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've spoken to users or clients of a large Dutch bank, and then they were very annoyed, very angry. Like they in full emotion, they told me like, well, I've been a customer here for 40 years now, and you still have to ask me where I live. I still have to prove to you who I am. How dare you? You've known me for 40 years. I've given you all my business. Like, they were very upset. So yeah, I can really see that. I'm curious about. Yeah.
In those instances, like they just want to be heard. Like I've been shell shocked in those conversations. Initially, I was like, oh, no, I'm going to be reviewing a 4 out of 10 today. Like I'm dreading those conversations. But what you learn over time is that they just want to yell for a bit and then understand that you're empathetic and you're listening, and your goal is to fix whatever problem. That's why, like in most of those sessions, I never even mention that I'm a product designer. I just say I'm an extension of the customer success team. They're like, here, vent away, but I'm here. I'm also like, why do you tell me what's wrong? But also, I have the ability to add what you're saying to the backlog so that our engineering team can fix your problem. And then once they hear like, oh, okay, cool. And now I'll add like a little kind of email. So thank you for the thing. We've covered this. Value your information. Do you mind if I reach back to you for future investigations? And then like, oh, cool, I'm part of the product now. So you're getting them, and it's fun to see them like in your example, your SUS scores. You're able to kind of see if that conversation moves them up in terms of that rating over time.
True. Do you hide the fact that you're a product designer on purpose? Or did that just happen?
I only hide it because I was tired of explaining what a UI UX designer was. I was like,
so you make things pretty.
Yeah. Or they didn't even understand what that is. Like, you're a what? I'm like, okay, well, I'm customer success. They get it.
Yeah. Well, that makes I'm part of the team that builds your product. So, and you mentioned data points. So I think that's very interesting because a poorly phrased question and an answer to that poorly phrased question is useless. Did you like the screenshots? How useful were the screenshots? And then seeing that they didn't see the screenshots. But I imagine if you zoom out and you have multiple data points all together, it's more useful. Like, do you have like I do not want to say a top 3 or top 5 because 3, 4, 5 like doesn't matter. But like, what are essential data points that you would need to come up with, let's say, a useful recommendation for how to improve a product?
Good question. So when you say data points, meaning just like if I'm benchmarking any feature, what am I?
Yeah. So meaning that the recording of a user going through your prototype perhaps is one. The questionnaire in the end is another one. And then I'm also thinking about, post hog or hotjar or, so because I was a bit stuck, but the answers I got were very eye opening and silly and sad in their own way. So I'm basically looking for if we're going to do this again, like what's a better way to set this up and make it feel more useful?
Okay. So my bare minimum, like what I'd love to do, like this doesn't always happen, but I think of it as like a funnel, and I do it in 3 separate steps. So I have the discovery, which will be I like to do an in-app survey. So like you can trigger a modal, you can actually get pretty fancy with this. You can go, hey, or get some engagement, go, hey, we're thinking of launching these 5 features. Which one of them would you love to have first? And then you're able to kind of get some information. You're focused on the one, but hopefully you're getting some traction there. And then the follow-up is, if we launch this feature, what are the top 5 things that are important to you? And that's like your first net. Okay, cool. We have, and that you can pair with your PRD, but you're like, here are the top 3 things that our users want to be included in this feature. Cool. Now I have my preliminary discovery work. I'm working on this feature. And now I have a prototype or like a high fidelity thing that I want to test. And then I'll run a usability study that go, and then my KPI there is just completion rate percentage or time, whatever you want to do it. So
Right.
everyone was able to 60% of people were able to complete the task, or people were able to complete it under a minute. And then you can do your feedback cycle there. And then the last thing is, when you launch it, do they use it? So that's the adoption rate.
Right.
So I think those 3 touch points, I know that's a lot of research, but I think ideally that's what you want. It's like, here's what they want. Let's test if it's useful. Can they complete it? Or you can follow up with a questionnaire. And then, are they using it? That's the distinction that we mentioned earlier is users say one thing, but they do another. So let's see if they actually use it.
Right. So there are questions in the beginning, discovery phase.
Yeah.
Do you really ask anything or talk to people in the later stages?
Ideally, I like to carry the same users. So like, if I send out that survey and they answer my questions, I'll pull them in to the middle phase, which is like the usability studies. Like, hey, I heard that you had some feedback. We're building it now. Would you like to see it first before it actually launches? That'll get them in, and then I'll test it. And then that's the information I'll get. And then I'll do the analytics Hotjar, see if my adoption rate is up. But as an additional sanity check, I'll say, hey, we've launched it. What do you think? Did we hit or miss the mark? Like, you've covered your bases. And then in that ideal world where you're working in iterations, I now know, based on that feedback at the end, what the next feature or next, like, the V2 should be.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's not really about that question I asked in the beginning, but it's more like that the fact that it was isolated, like it was the only thing we did, that it's a bit strange or useless, quote unquote. Yeah. All right. Well, that's helpful, because we were going to end up just watching recordings and not doing anything else.
Yeah, it's really just depends on what information you want to gather, and I always advocate for more the better. Or at least one data point is good.
Well, that's true. It's better than 0, because it's been useful. Just realizing that people can just say something is a good thing to know, because we will be better because of it in our approach to testing.
Yeah, it's a learning. Every experiment or test is something you learn, regardless of how well it learns, and over time you learn. You learn how to talk to people and get the information. Be the salesman the other way. Just make sure you're getting the juicy information that you want.
I feel like it's a craft, a skill, user research. That's it's getting more to the background. Perhaps it's an AI thing. Perhaps it's because it's hard to sell. It's much harder to sell compared to a shiny visual of a dashboard. But I'm somewhat concerned. I'm not sure if that's valid or not, but I feel like we're doing less research, and the research we are doing is perhaps of a lower quality in general. Not saying that there aren't any pros there, but I feel like we're doing less.
I'll say that there's going to be increasing value over time. The people that are smart enough to kind of take up the charge, research is going to be very valuable. I'm seeing a lot of like the development cycle change. So development is becoming faster and cheaper to do. You can get more things out of the door. And at the end of the day, the prompt you create dictates the solid output. I think there is more value in the input, which is the research part. So how that might look like practically is you're able to kind of vibe code an experience. But if your source material or your input is a slew of data points in terms of user research, conversations, ranking, your SUS score, like all that information aggregated together as like the input for the thing you're creating, that's like undeniable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel relieved, actually. Your research knowledge and expertise really set me straight.
Good. I'm glad. Research is
Yeah.
important. The answer the looming question, like, yeah, you can like this, like in 2011, we used to not do any research, and that didn't work because like
Mhm.
I was always the CEO. I know what to build, but
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really you don't.
Yeah.
You find your avatar, they know they like it or they don't like it, and then you keep building for them.
That's a big red flag, right? Designing something because of a CEO gut feeling.
Yeah, unless that CEO is talking to their customers on a daily basis.
Mhm.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
So like I've seen the good version of that is like I know the users and they have the paper trail to back it up. Like they're on sales conversations, they're talking to the end consumer, they're on the pulse. Cool. But at some point your job as the CEO is to do other things. Like that's why you hire like designers, etc.
Yeah, true. Well, I think it's a good idea for any CEO to once a week call customer support. You know, not telling them you're the CEO, just telling like just as a random person. Hello, I'm John and I'm stuck. Can you help me? And just to see how quickly they pick up the phone, how friendly they are, how useful it all is. Just to
That's it.
yeah. It's like that old show, that Undercover Boss thing. I think it's what it's called.
Yes.
Where the CEO becomes a janitor for a week in his own company. I think that's useful. Maybe we should do that as designers as well. But yeah. Side note: let's not go off track here too much.
Bring me back to Undercover Boss. Solid show.
Yeah.
But we digress.
Yeah. Well, I certainly feel helped. So thank you again.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, I don't have any closing thoughts here. I'm just happy now.
Good. I think you'll end up saying research is very important.
Yes.
I think there should be an attempt to do it 2 research methods per project. I think it's the ROI is there. It's just how you pitch it.
Yeah. True. Well, on that note, let's wrap up for today.
All right. Till next time.
Till next time.
That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah. And if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players and more.